put that question to you, James. Are we seeing a deflationary spiral? Because that's what a lot of people fear. It took Japan 20 years to get out of theirs.
Well, not yet. I mean, I think the first thing you have to say is that falling oil prices, which is what's really driving the decline in inflation, should be good news. I mean, that means an increase in purchasing power for consumers. And the reality is that for the majority of European countries, we will probably see increases in consumption and stronger growth next year. The problem is that that sort of analysis comes with a big but at the end of it. And the but is that low inflation can slowly, over time, get built into the economy. It implies things like rising interest rates, and that can start to become quite a grinding problem.
And it gets built into consumers' perceptions as well, because
Absolutely.
we're hearing so much negative news about the oil price seems to be down, the euro's at a 9-year low. On the face of it, it's negative. Later on down the line, that could be actually quite positive. But the other thing we should consider is the fact that deflation, it's built into what people expect of prices. So they put off big-ticket purchases because they think it'll get cheaper next year, and that's the worry.
Well, that's right. And I mean, at the moment, I think you can make the sort of distinction, if you like, slightly anodyne distinction between negative inflation and deflation. Deflation being, as you describe it, a decline in the generalized level of prices. So that's all prices declining. And the big risk there, as you say, is that once you start seeing prices decline, then there's an incentive to not buy something this month, but to put it off to next month because it'll be cheaper. Now, we're not there yet. But clearly today's news, and the reality is where oil prices are, is we're going to be looking at negative inflation figures for the whole of 2015 now.
It really has been the swift drop in oil prices that is worrying so many people. Oil itself, at this current low level, is actually an economic boon. Some call it the biggest tax break you could get for the economy, right? But it's the fact that this is falling like a knife.
Well, that, and I think, I mean, the reality, I think, is when you look, it's not just oil prices that are the reason for low inflation in Europe. I mean, the ECB throughout 2013 presided over a shrinking balance sheet and a strong appreciation of the euro, and that now looks enormously complacent. They simply haven't given themselves enough margin for error, and this sort of development is in some respects their worst nightmare.
So let's get to the crux question that everybody has, and if you look at the markets, which I'll come to in a moment's time, you can really see it replicated. Is this going to make Mario Draghi act now on the 22nd of this month?
Well, it will, and I think that's definitely in the pipeline. The question still remains, what kind of action we will see. There have been further comments and suggestions over the weekend and again this morning. Certainly they're going to start purchasing assets with, I think, some determination and some aggression to get the balance sheet back up to the $3 trillion level. The $2,000 question is, will those assets include sovereign bonds? And I still think, particularly with some of the developments in Greece that we've seen over the last months and the concerns of potentially a Syriza-led government in Greece, buying sovereign bonds will still be the ultimate red line for the euro area.
And I should also point out, James Nixon, that one of your key pieces of research that you put out before even these deflationary figures came out was to show that with prices at these low levels, 13 to 18 members of the Eurozone could already be pushed into deflation. So they're already in deflation, aren't they, irrespective of whether oil goes back up to 60?
Well, prices should potentially rise later in the year if oil prices at least stabilise. But, I mean, at the moment, the oil market is showing no sign of doing that. And absolutely, we are now looking at a scenario where the ECB will face negative rates of inflation every month for the whole year.
James Nixon, great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for helping us to understand exactly why a deflationary spiral, if indeed we will eventually see that, or whether this is just a deflationary blip on the month, is still very important for understanding how the ECB will